the next two sessions, we're going to talk about the progression of and the recovery upturn of the disease process. So if you would download this particular diagram and keep this handy, then you can follow along with what I'm talking about. If you look to the top left here, you'll see this box with 12 circles. And what that represents is, out of every 12 people, 3 people do not use or drink at all. 1 person becomes addict, and the other 8 are social drinkers. Let's start there and do the comparison between the social drinker and the person that's addicted. So out of these 12 drinkers, the 8 social drinkers decide when they're going to drink. They decide they're drinking to or using to get high or to alter their consciousness. They can decide when they want to stop, and they drink or use because they want to. The difference between the social drinker and the addict is the addict decides to drink to feel better or to function better, not just because they want to get drunk. And seldom is it that they want to get drunk or high. They're doing it just to feel normal. Most cannot stop when they want to, and they do still get drunk or high, but they do it because they crave it. So that's the difference between the social and the addict is they do it all to function, to feel functioning, to not feel pain, and they cannot stop when they want to. Okay, so let's start at the top here. You will see that the preliminary signs of addiction are they drink or use to relieve tension. And that just might be physical pain, emotional pain, mental discomfort, might be angry or bored. And then you'll find that they might drink before they go to a function because they feel better. Or they're going to make me dance and I don't want to dance necessarily. So if I take a drink, I'll feel a little bit better. And as they do this, their tolerance for the alcohol starts becoming more increased, and physiological changes are occurring in their body. They then progress to not feeling comfortable in situations where there isn't drugs or alcohol. And again, they continue to drink when other people stop. They become preoccupied with their drinking. They think ahead if they're going to go to a function because there's not going to be any, or they bring some. They prepare themselves in effort to do this. They have a one-track mind when it comes to doing this. As it progresses, they may start getting occasional memory lapses, and at this point, this is a major symptom that the illness is progressing if they have blackouts. Blackouts is a surefire sign that things are getting worse. So when a blackout occurs, the brain literally does not record the memory. So the only way that they are even going to know that this happened is if somebody happened to take a video of it or a picture, and they're not going to ever remember, and it's never going to come back to them because they are blacked out. Their brain just doesn't register it. This is a progressive sign that shows this is a major symptom that the illness is progressing. They will then start getting secretly irritated when you discuss that their drinking is occurring. And at this point, then they come to the place where they are unable to stop and there is a loss of control. And when this happens, this is a critical stage of the addiction. This is now the bridge is crossed. Once this occurs, there's no going back over the bridge. So imagine a pickle. A cucumber is a pickle before it becomes a cucumber. But once it becomes a cucumber, it can't go back and become a pickle. Same with this. We know that you have crossed a bridge. You can't go back. You can't become a teetotaler. You can't just have a drink every once in a while. Total abstinence is going to be the only way you can get this disease under control. So now we're here at the point of loss of control. And as we progress down, you'll see that their behavior may start becoming more aggressive and extravagant, and they start making excuses for their behavior. Their efforts to control their drinking are failing, so more shame and guilt comes in. They decide to go on the wagon and they see that they're not able to do it anymore. They have repeated memory losses, and now they might start feeling more guilty and have remorse about their drinking and say, I'm never going to do this again. So I want to refer here to this diagram that we have. So what happens to this person is at the top, when someone first thinks about their decision to drink, just the thought of thinking that they get to is called the preoccupation stage. So literally they're almost already high because the anticipation of getting to use is borrowing pleasure. And so they have already entered into the addiction cycle. So you may have family members at this point just saying, just don't do it. Stop drinking. This is not our party anymore. And they're on the other side going, party, I'm needing this just to feel normal. So let's use the example of someone that might be using cocaine. He thinks about on Monday morning, on Friday I'm going to use again. So he's already preoccupied. He's already entered the cycle of addiction because he's thinking about it and he's getting pleasure from the fact that he's even preparing and anticipating it. So Friday comes, he gets off of work, goes and cashes his paycheck, goes and gets something to drink, makes sure that the kids have diapers, gives his wife an excuse, gives her money she needs for the weekend or whatever it might be, and he goes and gets the cocaine from someone. There's a ritual or a ceremony that happens every time, kind of like with someone that smokes pot. They want to enjoy this high, so they're going to make sure that they have everything they need before they sit down. They're going to have their matches, their bong, their papers, the pot, something to drink, something to eat, maybe the clicker or some way to turn music on or whatever. This is their ritual. So let's also use sex or behavior as an example. The person that might be addicted to sex may find that they have to do their hair a certain way and make sure that they shower and use particular underwear, put on particular perfume. And if they don't do this ritual, then they can't enjoy the high once they use. So this ritual is a ceremony that occurs prior to their use, and it's a very important part of the cycle of addiction. So they get preoccupied, they're ready to use. Let's go back to the cocaine user. He gets prepared to do all of this. He has everything that he needs, he gets settled, and once all of this is at a point where he's comfortable, he'll then use. And he'll enjoy it and go through the process as like the behavioral person, the person that's using sex. They'll engage in whatever that behavior is. And then as soon as it's over, then the next stage is despair and shame. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this again. I'm not going to do this again. This isn't good. I've disappointed my family. I've put my family in peril, or I feel horrible that I've done this again. At this stage, this is the place where we have to find the person ready to change, because the moment they pass that and they start thinking again, because this is a disease of the brain and it's about our thought processes, once that thought has occurred that I want to use, I've entered the preoccupation stage again. So this continues to happen over and over and over again. So the despair and shame that occurs after the use is where we have to intervene and hopefully get that person's attention, possibly. There are other ways to do it as well, but this is kind of the cycle that occurs for someone that's using. Okay, so now we are at this part of the progression, and we are going to talk about how their intoxications or their use start becoming more lengthy. They may decide, oh, I'm going to move. It's got to be, I'm having trouble with this because of where I live. So they move to another place. Or they start fearing. They start thinking things are occurring that aren't going on, and they become paranoid. They might start feeling early tremors in the morning or wanting to use in the morning. Work and family are really starting to complain now. They're going in later. They're missing a lot of work. Then they start drinking or using alone. And we are meant to be relational people. We don't like being alone. And as a result, we'll start protecting our supply and we'll start hanging around with people that we normally wouldn't hang around with. And because we want to be around people. So now we become obsessed with our drinking. We have these vague stories and things that we think that are going on. We think people are talking about us. We might research and go to other kind of spiritual desires, maybe try a different religion or try a Ouija board or start looking into other cultures and such that are different from ours. And eventually they become so obsessed with the drinking, all of their alibis get exhausted, and people start removing themselves. They're drinking out of a can behind a gas station with people they would not normally do. Then they have three choices. And those choices literally are complete admitted defeat, and they choose to enter the uphill battle here of getting better with help, because they start connecting with people, themselves and others, and a power greater than them, whatever they believe that to be for themselves. They continue in their dishonesty or insanity, or they die. And the statistics show that out of every 10 addicts, that 7 will relapse for a number of years, which is unfortunate. And it's the truth. It's part of the addiction cycle. 1 will stay sober, and 2 of them will either go to jail or they'll die. And another statistic that's really important to consider is 88% of females that are addicted to substances probably have a history of sexual assault as well. So you can see here that we have to make a choice, and there's only a couple avenues that we can go with. And those avenues are either make the decision, admit complete defeat, stay in our continued use, and either life is miserable for a long time, your family is deciding to not have anything to do with you anymore, and they may find you dead someday. It's a very sad reality, and it's very possible. It doesn't have to be this way, and if you stay tuned, we'll talk more about what it looks like in order to recover.